Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to NerdTube. And it's time to talk about the Orville Season 3, Episode 9, Domino. I'm here with Cousin Cheeto. How you doing?
Very excited to talk about this Pew Pew episode of the Orville.
Oh, yes, it was definitely an episode with a lot of callbacks, in my opinion, to other sort of sci-fi franchises, which we'll get to in a little bit. Major Rage, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing great. Excited to talk about this episode. Big changes to the lore and, kind of the political landscape of their universe. So, a lot to unpack here this week.
Very much so. And finally, but by no means least, Commodore Boone himself. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. Very excited, and yeah, there's a lot of pew pews in this sucker. A lot of ships being blowed up. A lot of good stuff going on.
For sure. So before we break down this episode, as I like to do with all of you guys, is just ask you individually what you thought of this episode. Commodore Boone, I'll start with you first.
Oh, I liked it. Like I said, of all the ships and everything, Isaac and Charlie devised a device to blow up those big old red ships and everything, and that was pretty awesome. I mean, you get a whole bunch of ships, and they set that sucker off. Boom! That was awesome. But
Yeah,
it
that's
was
sort of
it was a
came on
pretty good
EMP.
episode. Yeah.
Major Rage?
I enjoyed this week's episode. I feel it was not up to the usual very, very high bar of the past couple of episodes, but they had a lot to do in a shorter time than they had used for the past couple of episodes. But everything there was well done. I felt like great CGI, great kind of staging for all the fight scenes. But you're correct. There's a whole lot of kind of reminds you of this, reminds you of that in this week's episode, and the kind of what they did at the ending. Once again, I feel like the episode kind of lost points in the last 5 or 10 minutes for me.
Fair enough. And I'd like to get to that once we get to those
Sorry.
particular parts. No. I'd like no need to apologize at all. I'm just saying when we get to that part, I will want you to further elaborate on that because I'm very curious to know what you points, what reasons made it lose points to you. So I am curious. Cousin Cheeto, what did you think of this episode?
I thought it was great. I This is definitely what I would consider the Rogue One of the Orville. Rogue One was, in my opinion, Rogue One was my favorite Star Wars movie. This probably has to be my favorite episode of Orville so far this season. Um, I'm always a big proponent. Like I'm very good storytelling and everything is always good. But when you can tell good storytelling through like space combat and everything like that, that's where you hit the mark, in my opinion. Space is dangerous. Space is flawed. And so, when you have technically four superpowers like this coming together, shit's gonna get blown up. Like so. Um, I grew up with the old like Wing Commander, TIE Fighter, X-Wing games, so I love that pilot aspect, of it, and watching all the fighters, and they teased the fighter in the first episode of the Orville, and it finally paid off. We had squadrons of fighters in there, and it was just
Hmm.
freaking fantastic. I loved every second of it. So yeah, this was definitely my episode. As I said, I'm okay with all the episodes that are like very socially charged and everything I'm not saying that like those are boring episodes. Those are great episodes, but like it's episodes like these that are like it's kind of like a wrestling match, like for any of you guys who are wrestling fans of the past.
Hmm.
You can tell a fantastic story in the ring, so like in this episode you can tell a fantastic story through a battle sequence, and they did that here between the space battle, the battle on the planet, the everything going on. So I really enjoyed this episode for what it was. And as I said, I'm a sucker for fighters. The only thing that Star Trek has never done in the past that I really want them to do one day or eventually is do fighters. I think it's stupid that Starfleet does not have a fighter division, because yeah, they've got all of these big explorer ships and even some battleships like the Defiant, but there is a place for those single combat fighters. We have it in real life. We have it in so much other parts of sci-fi, almost every other part of sci-fi. Star Trek misses the boat every single time when it comes to single pilot fighters, where there is absolutely a place for those. So yeah, I know I rambled on for a lot, but I mean, I really think they did that very well in this episode.
Despite, I mean, it's my opinion on this episode, despite all of the action scenes and, you know, whether it be the aerial combat or the ground assault or anything along those lines, Orville has always been compared to Star Trek, and there were still those Star Trek moments in this episode because of like the thoughts of mass genocide and still trying to have diplomacy, you know, and making people come around and seeing the bigger picture. All of that was in this episode, and I thoroughly enjoyed those particular moments too, and obviously those callbacks to previous events as well, because of where things have occurred from what we saw at the beginning of the season to what we're having now with the Krill and the Mucklins joining forces and stuff like that. It was just a lot of good stuff to come out of this episode as well. I wouldn't say this is necessarily my favorite episode, but I do appreciate what we got from this episode, and I also enjoy some good Star Trek style, you know, style. I mean, I keep calling this Star Trek, but again, I've always said this is the best Star Trek on television. But I do like it when this particular genre, which is more on the diplomacy angles and stuff like that, and more on the dramatic side of things, does get a bit dirty and starts blowing shit up. I do appreciate that as well. All right.
Also, I just want to clarify really quick. Just I don't remember if I said this was my favorite or the best. This is my favorite episode. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the best. As I said, this is my favorite episode, but I will acknowledge that there are probably other episodes that are better written, better, you know, directed and stuff like that. But how long was this episode? I didn't look at the run.
1 hour 18 minutes.
Okay, so it's running. Yeah, it's running right along where the other ones were.
Okay, so this episode is called The Domino. It's episode 9, the penultimate episode of the season. And just like Strange New Worlds when Hemmer died, this does feel like a season finale to a degree. But we're going to get one more and we'll see where that takes us. So the play-by-play comes along. As always, gentlemen, if you have anything you want to say and want to intervene at any point as I mentioned the play-by-play, please do. So the Macklins make a pact with the Krill on the Krill planet. The Macklins want to be in charge because the Krill leader is Trelea. Is that how you pronounce her name? You know, Mercer's ex-flame. Regardless, because Trelea is a woman, that the Macklins want to be a leader because, as far as they're concerned, women can't do shit. Trelea does not take kindly and demands an equal partnership, which the Macklins eventually reluctantly accept because they're on their world and they don't want to get fucked over.
Yeah.
So the Union have set up a defensive formation with their ships engaging the Kalon. I have to admit, as soon as I saw all of this shit, I thought, yeah, this is some sort of holodeck bullshit. But no, it was for real, and they're getting blasted heavily. And then Captain Mercer tells Lamar, Charlie, Isaac to activate their super weapon, and this weapon kind of destroys all nearby Kalon. And with a reluctant sigh, Mercer then informs Lamar and everyone else in engineering, including Isaac as well, that the weapon was successful. So back on Earth, the admirals are discussing with Mercer and Kelly the success of the super weapon. The weapon can destroy all Kalon ships without affecting the Union ships, or basically non-Kalon ships, basically. Admiral Perry, a.k.a. Ted Danson, wants to prepare an offensive where they can use this weapon against the Kalon and basically wipe them out. Mercer is uneasy, committing mass genocide even against the Kalon.
Sam, really quick before you move on, I do find it. The only thing that I do find on a continuity and story writing standpoint is that all of a sudden they have this weapon, and I know now that Isaac and Charlie are working together. They finally got this weapon, but it's just. It does frustrate me a little bit that like all of a sudden this weapon came out of nowhere, you know, and I know that they're supposed to be like Charlie's supposed to be a genius. Isaac is Isaac and he has insight, but it's like, I feel like there could have been a little bit more build up to this weapon, you know, maybe Charlie could have came to terms with Isaac a little bit earlier in the season. And then we could have seen the little snippets of this kind of developing it doesn't even have to be like a major plot point, just snippets of this being developed over a couple episodes. Then this episode they try it and it works, but now it just kind of seems out of nowhere. I did like the social quant, and even Seth MacFarlane really was selling the whole uh the whole moral
Conflicted.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the conflicted moral quandary here. I really felt that, and I really he did a great job with that. So that made you were going to say something.
Yeah, this was one of the problems I had with this episode too. And I think what they're suffering from is just it's one of the things that's going to come with having these short, like 10, 12 episode seasons of something. There's kind of a loss of it feeling of passage of time that you get with, you know, an episode that seems like it's coming out every week that feels, you know, like a longer season feels like time going, and you get in between bits where you can see those snippets of these plot arcs happen more organically over time.
They're really getting the best of both worlds now, aren't they? The episodic, but there's also underlying current of serialization too.
It really is the best you can hope for the modern style of storytelling.
And I really
Yeah.
do feel like that Orville is doing just as good, if not maybe better, than DS9 did back in the day. You know what I mean? Like DS9 was very serialized, but at the same time was also episodic at a lot of parts. So I feel like they are finding that perfect hybrid of that episodic serialized storytelling. It's weird to think of it that way, but they've almost nailed it, I think.
Okay, so crew members Malloy, Tala, Lamar, and Charlie are discussing amongst themselves about the super weapon. Malloy and Charlie want to use the weapon to basically wipe out the Kalon. Tala and Lamar want to find other means. And then Charlie makes a crude comment about Isaac being Lamar's best friend, pissing off Lamar as he pulls rank and walks off. That was pretty cool. I did like that scene. You know, Admiral Halsey leads the Orville on an expedition to the Kalon homeworld with a super weapon within the ship. They demand talks with the Kalon if they are attacked, and they said that they'll use their weapon. The Kalon do attack, so the Orville starts destroying Kalon ships. Eventually, Kalon Primary hails the Orville, and then the Orville was allowed to land on the planet for negotiations. And when they were landing on the planet, I have to say, once they were in the atmosphere, I kind of got Matrix vibes. You know, when in the real Earth, when they've been taken over by the machines, it kind of looked like that a little bit. Anyway, eventually the Orville docks and are greeted by Kalon Primary. Halsey states his demand, which is to end the violence and start peaceful negotiations. The Kalon Primary says that they will surrender and also suggests that they will find a weakness eventually to the super weapon. Halsey still considers all of this to be a win and tells the Kalon that they'll be back with further details of a peace treaty. The main cast are singing songs and having drinks in the cabin in the woods. Bortus and Clyden are struggling to at cracking walnuts. And outside the cabin, Isaac is explaining the star constellations to the kids. Charlie bluntly tells her captain that they should have wiped out the Kalon when they had the chance. But despite her mindset, Mercer still thinks Charlie has come a long way since she joined the Orville crew. At the Union headquarters, a lieutenant goes to where the device is, and then with the help of an insider, they take out some Union guys and steal the super weapon. And we see them getting into a shuttle and going into quantum drive. Claire and Kelly have some hangover coffee cure, and then they get an emergency message from Halsey saying that the device has been stolen, the super weapon that is. The Union ship that stole the super weapon docks on a Krill ship, and it was Admiral Perry, aka Ted Danson, who organized the theft of the weapon. Admiral Perry notices the alliance of the Krill and the Mucklin and tells the new coalition that the only people on the Orville that know how to use the weapon are Isaac and Charlie. I think maybe Lamar as well. I'm not 100% sure. The Macklins don't care if the Macklins personally don't care that they don't know how to use the weapon, because as far as they're concerned, they'll eventually figure it out. Perry knows that he's committed treason, and he informs the coalition being obviously the Krill and the Macklins, that he will now give himself up to the Union. Trelea is not wanting the Union to find out about the Krill-Macklin partnership, which obviously Perry will definitely inform the Union of once he gets back to Earth. So they destroy the ship. Perry's in orbit, and that's it. Ted Danson's dead.
Yep.
Yay.
Cheers, Ted Danson. All right.
He's just floating around.
Yeah. So the Orville crew with Halsey investigate the theft of the weapon on Earth. They figured out Perry was involved, so the thieves had all the clearance codes and everything they needed to pass every obstacle. Back in space, the Orville traces the ship's movements and find out that it was destroyed by the Krill and the Macklins because they noticed Krill and Macklin weaponry, and now they kind of figured out that the Krill and the Macklins have an alliance. Bolter says that the weapon will be taken to the Macklin's greatest scientist of all time, and he will figure out how the weapon works. The Orville then go to the planet where the Macklin super scientist resides, and a quantum core power source of epic proportions is being created to power the weapon, creating, hopefully, well, as far as they're concerned, a bigger blast radius. Visually, the power is so great it can be seen from orbit in space. I was getting Starkiller vibes, Coruscant vibes when we saw the sort of power pumping out of the planet from. Well, I mean that you can see the power visually from space, so to speak. I'm not sure if you guys were getting that same vibe. Yeah. Okay. So the Orville is currently outgunned and decide to contact the Kalon for help, as it's in their own best interest to help. The Kalon, knowing that their backs are against the wall, agree to a temporary alliance with the Union, and get to basically go up against a very powerful Krill and Macklin tag team. Kalon Primary and two of his lieutenants come on board the Orville to discuss battle plans of a ground assault to deactivate the weapon and an aerial assault to keep the coalition distracted. So the fight happens now, and a large swath of Union ships engage the Krill and Macklin ships, with many Union ships being destroyed. And then out of the black comes, I was about to say out of the blue, but I changed it to out of the black. Out of the black comes the Kalon ships with a surprise attack, giving the Unions a chance to pull out their X-Wings and take the battle into the planet's atmosphere. This is where probably Cheetah must have been like losing his shit by now.
Dude, I was all over the place, man. I'm like watching this going, oh my God, I love it so much. Like as I said, this is where I was getting the Rogue One vibes, where you got stuff going on the planet. You got, they're trying to get down to the planet to steal something, to do something. I'm like, this is definitely the Rogue One version on the Orville. So I
was getting that vibe too. Now the ship carrying there's a shuttle ship carrying the ground assault team of Kelly, Charlie, Isaac, Tala, and Kalon Prime, and they're in the ship, which is basically cloaked, and because they want to be undetected. Obviously, the cloaked ship has taken so much damage though whilst they're trying to enter the atmosphere, even though they're cloaked. So the crew members of that ship decide to skydive out of that ship on their way to the ground, also with rocket packs too. Many unknown fighter pilots die. Like basically, we're getting like porkins all over the fuck. Yeah, porkins all over the place, and but they try to destroy the weapons infrastructure from the surface. Kelly and the gang have infiltrated the location where the weapon is being kept. It looks just like the place where Topper was kept. It was pretty much, I think it's like the same fucking set, without a doubt, in my opinion. Anyway, we get some corridor pew-pews, as well as Lamar saving his wingman Malloy from a Krill fighter.
Quick question, so Lamar, I mean, I know he's an engineer, but is he a pilot? I mean, I guess he was a co-pilot on the bridge before he was the chief engineer, but
yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, so was Geordie LaForge, wasn't he? He was like a fucking pilot, and then he became
like a helmsman, yeah.
Yeah,
I thought, and I mean, you could definitely tell in this sequence that Lamar was not as good as a pilot as Malloy was. Like, and I think they purposefully did that because
to put Malloy over, have somebody less competent but on the main cast be in the scene.
Well, yeah, just like more like, like the scene where he's chasing the one and he's, and Malloy's like, anytime now. And he's like, God, staying still so I can shoot you. Like, I feel like that's what they were going for, is that they wanted to kind of show that, although Lamar can pilot a ship, that doesn't mean that he's like not everybody in the Union is the best at everything, like in Starfleet. And You know, I know we do a lot of Star Trek comparisons, but I kind of got that vibe where I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, he's not exactly the best pilot, and he can pilot a ship, but that doesn't mean that he's like, you know, 5-star grade A Uber Eats driver. You know,
Yeah, but not even like that as the better pilot. He's got somebody on his tail, and he's able to still buy enough time for Lamar to kill that guy. Because if it was the other way around, Lamar might have been dead because he might not be able to avoid, shake that guy off as the way Malloy did. Regardless, Kelly separates herself from the team so they can go the long way around to get to the weapon, whilst Kelly keeps the bad guys distracted. She ends up being, after taking all of them out, she ends up getting halted by the trailer, and then they both have a fight. Now, I'll tell you this, ever since Total Recall, the Arnold Schwarzenegger Total Recall, not the shitty Colin Farrell one, ever since Total Recall, I love seeing women fight each other. I love it. You know what I mean? So we had Sharon Stone in that fight scene in Total Recall, and then these two women had a fight scene too, and I fucking loved it. It was brutal as well. They were smashing each other's faces into walls and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Throwing each other on the hard concrete ground. I love it. I fucking love it. Anyway, everyone else has caught up to the super weapon, and they try to disarm it. Kalon Primary then kills a bunch of Macklins, including the super scientist, as they were trying to escape. One Macklin remains, and then he tries to kill Charlie, but Isaac shoots the gun out of his hand, and he lets that particular Macklin escape. This promptly basically makes sorry. Let me rephrase myself. This basically makes Kalon Primary ask why he didn't kill that particular person, and Isaac explains that he has disarmed him. There was no need to kill him. This kind of obviously puts thoughts into Kalon Primary's head in the course of him changing into a better person. Anyway, Talia then comes in with a save, knocking out Trailer before she got killed before Kelly was killed by her, and only Charlie with her 4-dimensional brain can stop the weapon, as it as it will mean her life and a large nuclear level explosion. So she'll basically sacrifice her life, and it will cause a large nuclear explosion if she does stop the weapon, because there's no other way to stop it. All the Union and Kalon basically abandon the planet before the blast. Charlie manages to stop the weapon from activating, and she killing herself in the process. And with her last breath, she says, "I'm coming, Amanda." And that was so sweet. Now I know I think I'm not sure if you're rolling your eyes up to that, but I kind of like where we're going here, because the person who hated the Kalon most, not only did she save Isaac in episode 1, she ended up saving the entire race in this particular episode. It was pretty cool, like she went out like a fucking trooper.
No,
Anyway.
she definitely had a lot of development, but I just feel like it would feel more natural, and it'd be a better redemption arc if we had seen it evolve more instead of just, mostly in this episode. There's
No, go on, please finish what you thought.
We had a snippet in, episode 7, I want to say, the time travel episode, where, Isaac's trying, but she's still deflecting his attempts to make conversation. We have the only other on screen bit is when they actually did have a conversation on last week's episode. I feel like they're implying that a lot of growth has happened, and development and headway on Isaac's part, but because we didn't get to see it, the impact that they want this scene to have just didn't land for me.
See, for me, even though she never fully came around, she still did what was right, and I like that. I think that's like she's. I mean, even in this episode, she still was willing to let all the Kalon die, but she kind of built a bridge a little bit with Isaac. She saw certain hints of of the other side of the perspective when she spoke to Timus an episode or 2 ago. So that she was never fully turned over and fought differently, but she had to do what she had to do, and that overcame her, regardless of her prejudice. That was the more important thing, and I very much appreciate how that was portrayed, in my opinion. Anyone else got anything to say? Go on.
I like how they did it, all except for how little time we had to see it.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
I like that she didn't have a complete 180 turnaround, that it was duty partially at the end. I think they did it very well, except not having enough time for it. Let Cheeto go ahead. I think you had something to say, boss. No?
Not really. I mean, I half agree with everybody. Um, I do agree that with this 10 episode format, that you don't get a lot of time. So it is more inferred that there is more time between episodes than we think. And that's why I'm saying, like, I mean, I would love to know the time frame of this episode. Like, how long has it been since the last episode? I wish they kind of gave us like some kind of chronological clock as to where we're at in the, like how long it's been since Charlie and Isaac have kind of mend fences a little bit, and or at least built bridges more so. And so I do definitely agree with Mage on that one. I did feel like that this scene was very impactful, and I agree with Zam that it was more impactful because she did the right thing, and I think at her core she wasn't doing it to save the Kalon. I think she was doing it because when push came to shove, it was the right thing to do. So I wouldn't say that she had so much a redemption arc with the Kalon. I would say she more had a redemption arc with Isaac, and that kind of had come to full circle and fruition. And I think she just did this because it was the right thing to do. And that does show a lot of character growth on her, because I'm sure if Charlie of episode 1 of this season were to be in that exact same predicament, she probably just would have like not said anything and let the whole thing blow the Kalon up, even Isaac included, which I don't think it would have, but still. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this whole part.
Well, with Kalon Primary experiencing a human sacrificing herself for his species to live, it kind of makes him think a little bit differently about living life forms. After speaking to Ed and Kelly when they were back on the Orville, Trelea, who was taken hostage or taken prisoner, so to speak, after being knocked down by Tala, is in the brig, and Mercer tells her, "You'll answer for your crimes back on Earth." He also wants his daughter back, and Trelea foolishly tries to buy her freedom using her daughter, but he then promises Ed that he will never see their daughter again. We'll see how that pans out. I mean, that could be something of the final episode, in my opinion. We could be going there where he tries to rescue his daughter. So the Union then negotiates with the Kalon for temporary membership to the Union. The Kalon kind of mock democracy, but Halsey gallantly tells them that democracy is not perfect, but it's the best way for equality, and no one has come up with a better method. And I do agree with that. Democracy is not necessarily the best way. It doesn't necessarily work because people are always trying to have their piece of the pie and bargain and whatever. But there is still no better way of equality than democracy. So we have a eulogy for Charlie Burke. It's being conducted by Captain Mercer. He asks for anyone to give a speech, and Isaac steps up, and he basically says that Charlie has a love for pancakes, and Isaac himself was impressed by her brain. Despite her disdain for the Kalon, she saved Isaac's life in the season premiere, and then gave her own life so the Kalon could live, and her impact will be felt far into the future. Unfortunately, there's no eulogy for all the X-wing pilots who died on the planet, as well as the countless Union ships that were blown to smithereens, and God knows how many fucking people on them as well. No eulogy for them, but there was one for Charlie, and basically that's how the episode ends. So it was just remembering Charlie. One season wonder, gone but hopefully not forgotten. She'll be back. She'll be back. They'll fucking go to a parallel universe or some shit like that, or they'll clone her, or she ended up maybe going into a hatch, before it blew up or some shit like that. I don't know.
The actress comes back playing alternate timeline Charlie's daughter, where Charlie was taken captive by somebody, and she has a half them, because this is so Tasha Yar.
I mean,
I'm going to
hey,
address the
Oh,
elephant in
wow.
the room. It's
yeah.
first season character that was only on the show for one season dies shortly before the season finale.
Hmm.
I mean, you know,
I can see those particular vibes, and I will personally give you a transatlantic high five if that happens. Yeah, I mean, but if they make her the daughter as well, my goodness, they'll be definitely copying Star Trek a little bit too much, even when it comes to their story threads. But I
that
like
was
the
mostly
way.
a joke. but
Oh, yeah. Oh, really? So you
but
were very
but the
convincing.
point but the point remains. I mean, I'm not trying to. It just it smacks of Tasha down to the the eulogy by the artificial life form for her.
hmm I so I hope they don't, because that'll kind of be more of a Shax thing from Lower Deck season 1. But hopefully you all have seen Lower Deck season 1. I know Zam has, and I know uh I'm pretty sure Mage has. But yeah, just like with Jax, it's like you had a really good emotional send off and a good eulogy and everything, and then she just comes, and then she would just come back next season. And I mean, I know they did it more for comedic value in Lower Decks, but in this one, it's like, and I don't even agree with it in Lower Decks. If
Yeah, I
they did
don't agree
that
with
in
it
this,
either.
huh?
I don't agree with, as much as I love Shax. I do not agree with him coming back.
I agree. I 100% agree. As I said, it was a great send off for a character, and it was just a comedic plot point in an episode, like pretty much, like anyway. But we're talking about Orville. I don't know. I mean, I was starting, the character of Charlie was starting to grow on me. I did not like her in the very beginning. Um but she was starting to grow on me a little bit, as characters do. And as she became less bigoted. But no, if they bring her back, I mean, they need to leave her dead. This is like the whole Iron Man Captain America thing. It's like when they're gone, they're gone. Like don't bring them back. Don't, you anytime you bring them back, it taints the send off that they had. The only one that you might be able to justify is Captain America as Old Man Cap to give Sam Wilson a pep talk, but that's like it. But it's because Cap's not technically dead yet, but still. I really feel like that the send off there, like that's like if they bring back Iron Man, Tony Stark's Iron Man. I really feel like they don't need to do that ever. So
Just just to go with what you said there, he's still Steve Rogers. He just happens to be old. He's
yeah,
not Captain America anymore. That's now Sam Wilson. So
yeah,
if he does come back as Steve Rogers, old, talking to Sam Wilson, then
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that at all.
No, and that's a bad analogy right there, but that's why I kind of
Yeah,
segued into like the Tony Stark one more so, because he's dead. Like
yeah,
he's dead.
yeah.
I get it. There's multiverse, but really, do they really want to pull that rabbit out of their hat? Like I don't know. I don't know if Robert Downey coming back would do anything. But anyway, okay. So back on Orville. But yeah, I
Yeah.
really don't want. I mean, they could do multiverse shenanigans where she comes. I mean, maybe her and the theory that we had with Bad Malloy. Remember from the alternate timeline where he had a family. Maybe the alternate version of her and the alternate version of Malloy team up and become a thing. And because they were sitting pretty there at the beginning of the episode doing the singing. And although I'm not inferring any romantic because they didn't really put it out there as that, there might be some chemistry there, so maybe they're subtly hinting at something like that.
Yeah, poor Gordon. I mean, he did to seem to genuinely like her, and they were obviously close friends. Seemed to be just it. But he's had that family stripped from him in episode 7. Now this, like, his seems like his second closest friend almost. He
Hmm.
loses her. He seemed pretty tore up at the funeral. Is he going to be the Orville's suffering Irishman? Is he going to
Oh
be
no,
Miles?
he's the no. Malloy must suffer. No, poor
He's
O'Brien.
Poor O'Brien, for real though.
we have Isaac. So Isaac did mention the eulogy that he had served
Yep.
with Charlie for 257 days, and actually, I'm very happy you mentioned that YouTube user because what got me, if there was something that I found kind of negative with this episode, was the fact that They just managed to steal the weapon, and next thing you know, they arrive on that planet. It's already it's already like interfaced with the planet, and the whole like a big portion of the planet, like the size of a fucking Australia, is
Built
it's like
that
already
huge antenna really fast.
like Jesus Christ, like how they moved really bloody quickly. You know what I mean? With technology they're not even familiar with, because they meant it was mentioned earlier that only Charlie and Isaac were able to activate the weapons because it's that complicated. So yeah, I found that a bit weird. So, but yeah, should we give this episode a mark? I'm gonna give this. I mean, I'll give Orville a lot of credit, even though this was a heavily pew pew episode. Even the episodes where it's maybe a bit more grounded and stuff, they still have moments like where they have the odd chase scene or whatever, and some action scenes and stuff like that, and it can still be quite riveting at times. But this one was amazing. But I wasn't blown away by it at the same time. I was impressed, but I wasn't blown away. But that's just from the action scenes. Nevertheless, 8 out of 10. It's just great television. 8 out of 10. It's very hard for me to dislike this. I mean, I'm so used to going into Orville now being good that maybe I'm no longer getting blown away by it, but at least it's still good. It's not shit. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for me. Cheeto.
I think I'm gonna have to pull a Commodore Boone, and I think I'm gonna have to say 10 out of 10.
Wow.
Yeah, this one really hit me. Not on an emotional level. I will admit it did not hit me on an emotional level, but it did hit me in the nostalgia for like all of my combat simulator days back in when I was a kid. All the fighters, the Rogue One type esque of it. It all hit me really well. I felt like they handled Charlie's death really well. The only thing against that I can do is, as I said earlier, and as Mage was mentioning as well, is that this weapon just kind of came out of nowhere, and then so we're not really know how much time has passed, so we don't get a scope of how long this campaign has been going on. But this episode in a bottle, I mean, if I could do halves, I'd probably do 9.5. Just give it, but I'm not gonna. I don't do halves, so I'm gonna round up. I'm gonna do 10.
Very good, Commodore Boone.
I'll give it a definite 10. But when the Kalon scene where Charlie was going to give up her life for stay there to make sure everything's doing okay, just the look of the Kalon just looking at her thinking, why is she doing that? But as you've seen, she saved everybody.
Yeah, it's amazing how you can nowadays, since like the Mandalorian and stuff, we can read people's mindset without even looking at their faces, or in the Kalon's don't even have a fucking face. Okay, Major Rage.
I'm gonna give this week's episode a 7. I feel like the balance of kind of moral and ethical quandary to action, I feel like it was a little bit off. It was so heavily action, and it felt like there should be more time there to explore kind of the moral quandary of weapons of mass destruction, especially one that's capable of genocidal level effect. We went a full minute or hour and 30 minutes last week. Why not give us just a few more minutes here and there, a few more minutes to flesh out that, a few more minutes to show kind of the headway that Isaac's made with Charlie and the headway that she's made with her own attitudes and stuff. I feel like this one just kind of it suffered from that 10 episode format, and it didn't do a very good job of showing a lot of the things. They just kind of told us that a lot of the things that happened off screen happened, and I was always taught when storytelling, show, don't tell. But still great television, and it's just Orville has set such a high bar for itself to me that I feel like this one, it had a few cracks in the armor.
What was it that kind of pissed you off with the end of the episode? We never really got into that.
The death of Charlie, and then that kind of is the part that I was trying to kind of frame when I was in the beginning, just because of all the things that I've been saying about us not seeing it happen and not feeling organic, that had no emotional impact for me at all. I was just kind of like, okay, good. I never liked her anyways. She's not on the show anymore. But it just, yeah, I mean, I wasn't mad. It's not like, oh, this is stupid. This is just pulling at our emotions. It's just, I know that it didn't hit for me the way it probably hit for a lot of fans. And I'm sure there are like Charlie fans out there who are sad this week. And, but no, still great television. It just doesn't hit that high that previous Orville episodes have to me.
I mean, she is quite attractive. Let's be real. I'm going to miss her on my screen.
She's very, very pretty young lady. Absolutely a good actress.
Yeah,
she did a great job of selling a character that I disliked so much that I'm meh over.
She Chris Jericho'd it.
I think you lost it with that.
No, a heel.
Yeah, Chris Jericho's that heel that you love to hate.
Love to hate him. I was just like, how do I respond to this? Because I was always that guy that kind of liked Jericho.
And I love Jericho.
I get shit about it.
Yeah.
My buddies like to give me shit about liking Jericho.
No, Jericho's one of my favorites. He's so good. Anyway.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I just kind of find it shocking, but I thought she'd be a new addition to the crew, and then boom, they kill her off. That for me was the shocking part. I was not expecting that at all from her, but I'll tell you one of the things which didn't give me a higher mark than the 8 is little things like the fact that when you see other crew members in their shuttles who you've never seen before, yeah, you're dead. I mean, you're fucking dead. It's the same when you see particular members from the Enterprise go on an away mission, and somebody you've never seen before go on a fucking away mission. You know that they're dead. So like stuff like that jars me. So when Charlie did die, that one I wasn't expecting because you see her all the fucking time. But and I very much appreciate that because it was a good shock. But I never liked the fact that when you see other crew members doing these sort of things, that they're there to be cannon fodder and die off. And it's something writers need to get around. I've always said have these particular characters here, there, splashes of them in previous episodes, so that you do recognize them. So when you do kill them off in these sort of action scenes, it hits a bit harder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like Lieutenant Carey from Voyager. He makes it all the way through all 7 years, and then towards the end,
not even him, because I knew the moment he was on that away mission, he was dead. Even I knew. Come on, man, you must have known that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because he hadn't been there in years.
Yeah, like all of a sudden this motherfucker's in the first season or so, loses his position to fucking to Torres. But he was the chief engineer, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
No, he was in contention for chief engineer. He wasn't. Okay. The chief engineer died, and so it was between him and B'Elanna.
Yeah,
that's right.
I'm just give it to this marquee traitor. Fuck you, Gary. You know what I mean? But nevertheless, the point is, the moment we did see him come back on our screens, before he died, I knew he was a fucking dead man. You know what I mean? And I hate that about Star Trek, Orville, all of that sort of stuff. When they do shit like that, it's just like you got to have like more crew members who you don't see do too much. A bit like that Vulcan guy, who went through the Pon Farr on Voyager. Like you see him now and again. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Charles. I'm about to say Charles Barkley. Reginald Barkley, for fuck's sake. But played by the legendary Dwight Schultz, aka Howling Mad Murdoch. Stuff like that. That's you need to use some characters sparingly here and there, so when they do kill them off, it has more of an impact. There was so much going on with my wife. I pointed out. Wow, let me read that again. There was so much going on that my wife and I pointed out some things that didn't make sense, but it was so amazing still. Yeah, Yeah.
Very
When
amazing.
it comes to
It's just
when it comes,
pacing issues.
yeah, just generally sci-fi will always have a moment or two where it doesn't fucking make sense. Even the best sci-fi, and Star Trek included, there's always going to be a moment or two like that. But yeah, one good thing is with the Orville that they got feature length episodes, so 9 times out of 10 they're able to give us a product where they can spread out everything, and not much is left on the cutting room floor. It's pretty much
And
hopefully all.
and
Yeah,
that's
go
why I
on.
think we have such a shorter season, is because they're putting more substance into each episode, and they're
Hmm.
longer. That's why I think we went from, what was it, like 15 or 14 or 13 episodes down to 10, is because all that extra time for them, so those missing episodes is going into the actual episodes to give us more time. And you're right, so there's less on the cutting room floor.
So next week, unfortunately, is the final episode. I'm going to
Mm.
miss this show, and there's still no news on a season 4. I mean, at the moment, Disney. I mean, it's always been on Disney Plus for us in the UK, but it's promoting Orville to be on Disney Plus now in America.
I think
So,
I think with the announcement of future seasons being on Disney Plus, I think that infers that there will be at least a season 4. So I know, I don't know if they came out and announced it, but I'm pretty sure that that them moving it to Disney Plus infers that it's getting a
well,
season 4. I'll have to double
I'm,
check and look and see if there's an official
I'm
announcement.
yeah, I'm always checking. Like at least once a day, I'm checking news sites. For an Orville season 4, waiting for that great news to come through. But I want to see more of this. Disney don't need to buy Star Trek. They got this. This is their Star Trek. They can do their own spin-off shows and everything else.
Yep.
From here on onwards. I love seeing Seth MacFarlane play a serious role for once. It's a good change of pace.
I don't know. I'm going to pose the question out there really quickly, though, before we wrap up. Seth MacFarlane. People have been talking about Seth MacFarlane taking Alex Kurtzman's spot. Do we want Do we want that? Because that basically means that they're going to have to shut the Orville down,
No,
or Seth MacFarlane won't be allowed to be creative on it. Do we want that? Yes or no? I
I
kind
don't.
of don't
I
want
don't
it.
want. I don't want that for a start. I want to
Nope.
see more of the Orville. This is his baby. He
Yeah.
should
Yep.
be. Yeah, he should be. Doing this. What we're getting recently with Star Trek. Some of the shows are pretty good. Obviously, Star Trek: Strange New Worlds is very good. I think. Um, with each season, Discovery is rectifying its serialized episodic sort of style. It's being, even though it is heavily serialized, it is trying to have those diplomacy angles and stuff like that. Unfortunately, it's still too Michael Burnham centric, but regardless, yeah, it's not too bad Star Trek to watch at times. There are moments where it feels pretty good and it feels very Star Trekky. Lower Decks obviously is excellent. I do like Prodigy. You know, I think it's a great way of bringing a new generation into Star Trek as well, because we need that new generation. Because look at us four, we're over the
Mm.
hill motherfuckers. All of us. We'll be collecting our pensions soon, so we need that new generation of Star Trek fans to be on board. Only thing which hasn't been too great is Picard, but that'll be ending soon, and it's going to be TNG season 8 anyway with the season 3 of Picard. So I'm looking forward to that, just to see some of the old members come back for a nostalgia factor. Let Kurtzman stay on Star Trek. I do believe he's listening to the fans and kind of giving us what we want. Yes, Mage.
If Kurtzman was still putting out the kind of stuff like Discovery season 1, and the quality hadn't increased to the point that it has now for New Trek, I would be all for kind of McFarlane taking that Kurtzman spot. But I feel like they're hitting that balance now, and I'm hopeful for the new stuff coming out for sure. Looking
Yeah,
forward.
like they've got decades of Star Trek uh television shows and films to fall back on when it comes to getting an idea of what Star Trek's all about. Not just Alex Kurtzman, but all the people around him. Within his think tank, they can do this. We've seen with Strange New Worlds that they have done this. So just let this continue the way it is. I want Seth MacFarlane to stick with the Orville, because I want that to be a massive franchise in its own right. You know what I mean? Not just the
Yep.
show Orville, but everything that can be spin off from it. You know, Jericho is the top of the officer. The top of officer to go to war with, just not exploratory missions.
Are you talking about Jellicoe, Captain Admiral Jellicoe or Captain Jellicoe? I
liked
don't.
him, by the way.
Yeah, I did too. I don't remember a Jericho. I'm trying to remember if there was a Captain Jericho or a something Jericho.
I think maybe they're maybe making a joke for our Chris Jericho reference earlier.
I thought
Yeah.
maybe, but I just don't know how that plays it, like exploratory. I don't know. Okay, well, whatever. I mean, yeah, if it's a play, I'm sorry, we're nerds. We things go over our heads really easily.
Before we wrap this up, I just want to ask all of you guys, what do you think is going to happen next week? I'll start off with you, Mage.
It's a, I mean, that's tough. Maybe something with Mercer's daughter.
Yeah.
That's maybe some more of Claire and Isaac getting back together. See some of that. And I don't know. They like to fall back on that plot line, and we haven't seen it in a couple of weeks. And there, I don't know. I am not good at predictions when put on the spot. Ask me tomorrow, and I'll
No?
probably have come up with something.
Okay, I will do. Commodore Boone.
Oh, that's a toughie. I'll agree with him. I mean, yeah, him over there. I mean, with the daughter thing, I would think that would probably continue. They might still talk about Charlie a little bit, and the K-Lines will probably still think about why did she do what she did. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, then maybe they have a brain glitch and they'll crash.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who knows?
I think that they're going to realize that all of the admirals in the Admiralty of the Union have been possessed by aliens, and it's going to be up to Mercer and Kelly to go to Starfleet Command and eradicate all these claymation monsters from the Admiralty
in the goriest way possible on.
Hey, they're on Hulu now. They can get away with it.
I almost said on network TV, and I'm like, it's on Hulu now.
Well, Gord's coming again.
I was thinking about what's going to happen next week. There's a couple of things that come to mind. Obviously, we have Mercer's daughter, and maybe him trying to rescue her from the Krill home planet. On top of that, Trelea is now being taken to Earth, so we might get some courtroom drama with her and all of that, and we might see some other points of view, so to speak. What was the name of those aliens that turned that particular admiral into a fucking alien? The one Claire's ex-boyfriend or ex-husband.
Oh God, insectoid aliens. I don't think, did they ever give them a name? I don't remember.
No, they didn't, because they were kind of new kids on the block. But nevertheless, we saw them very early on. I think episode 2 of this season, they came on the scene. So we haven't seen them for 2 months.
But they are on the other side of Krill space, and obviously the pact between the Krill and the Union has kind of fallen apart at this point. So I mean, it would be interesting to see if somehow they sick those guys on the Union, like if somehow the Krill lure them through Krill space to Union space or something like that, or
Well, if they can, because those people don't think, those particular aliens don't think that, like, manipulation is not really their thing, and they don't give a fuck whether you're a krill or whatever. They just want to turn anyone they spit their goo on into a fucking alien.
Yeah.
Like their species, maybe the krill have a problem with that and they need the Union to save them or some shit like that. So there is a good chance of that coming into play. But yeah.
Well, and it's definitely going to be interesting with the krill and the what's Mortis's race?
The Mucklins.
Yeah, the Mucklins and the krill being in a union, and now the Union and the Kalon. I mean, it almost parallels Star Trek Picard, because in Star Trek Picard the Borg got temporary membership in the Federation at the end.
Mhm.
Sorry for people who have not seen Picard. So I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know how I feel about this. Going into it, like, I
It's
get
so
it. Like,
quick.
it is very quick, and it's like we're not used to it because, again, comparing to Trek, but it's like how many Federation worlds have actually, besides in Discovery, left the Federation? None. It has never been done in any of Trek history. No races that I can recall have ever left the Federation. Like, and that's what this is good because it's something different. Like, we've never had, like, that's like the Andorians being like, all right, deuces, Federation, we're out. Like,
Yeah.
so it
It's a
is
bit like
kind of,
United Kingdom leaving the European Union. Like, what the fuck?
yeah, but at the same time, so it's new, but it's never been done on Star Trek before, which is good. But it's just like, I don't know, like, it's very interesting, but I'm just kind of like, I don't know how to feel about this.
Yeah, because those aliens don't want to go against their best interest, unlike the dickheads in my country who did. But nevertheless,
I feel like we're talking about two different things here.
yeah, I know. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying they know that being part of a,
I know,
of a, I don't, the word globalized is wrong here, but intergalactic, sort of space contingent, is much more beneficial than going on your own, which
Yeah.
is what we did, and I'm really pissed off about that.
And here,
But no, yeah.
I was gonna say, and just here's what I don't want next week. I don't want all four sides to come together at the end next week.
That would
Like,
be awful.
I feel like that would be
Yeah.
too, like, bookend storytelling happy. Like, I don't want the Krill and the Moclan to join back into the Union with the Kalon and all the other races. It's like I don't want that. I think that's
Well, you
going to
need
be
an
too
you need
clean.
an antagonist, don't you? So
Yeah,
you
and
know,
yeah,
and exactly. And with the flashbang wallop we got with this episode, I just can't see them going to that level
next
in the
week.
final. Yeah,
I don't really
I
think so either.
I
But
expect more like looking at how the political landscape has changed in the galaxy with the switching up of alliances and such,
yeah.
because
I
it's a big deal for their
I think
lore.
I think maybe like certain members of the union. Actually, I could see certain members of the union being like not being happy with the Kalon being part of their contingent now.
Exactly.
Saying that it's like the Borg. Like you killed all my people and stuff like that, and now we're supposed to break bread with these guys. Yeah, I think that might come into play as well. But yeah, there's so much. I'm thinking. I'm expecting an hour and a half feature length episode next week as well to give us a good send off. Maybe a cliffhanger, a semi cliffhanger, so to speak.
I would imagine so.
Yeah, he did mean Jellicoe, by the way.
I wonder how much of a delay he's on because that was a long time ago we asked that.
Mm.
You don't think so, Boone? There's going to be a cliffhanger. There was a cliffhanger last season.
Oh, there probably will be a cliffhanger. I was agreeing with you on that.
Oh, you were agreeing with us. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
It just
Well,
seems like that every sci-fi always has a cliffhanger every season.
I don't
Yeah, for sure.
mind there being like a lead in to the next season. I just don't like cliffhangers where it's like, like I don't mind them being like the penultimate episode of TNG, the first season was actually a great cliffhanger going into the second season because where they all the Romulan what was it, the Romulan and Federation outposts along the neutral zone were destroyed. They don't know why, and it's not like there was a Borg cube sitting in front of them getting ready to attack them. Like Best of Both Worlds Part 1 and 2. I don't. I'm actually not a huge fan of those cliffhangers like Best of Both Worlds, although they're great episodes. And they're good for binging now. But like if we have to wait a whole season, I like those that are like where they tease next season, where it's like like as I said, like the penultimate episode of TNG with the outpost being destroyed and they have no idea who's doing it, but it's obviously a very strong species.
Well, if a show is got is good enough to go into another season, and the people who make that know it, then I have no problems with a cliffhanger, knowing that I'm going to get that extra season. But there are shows that end on the cliffhanger and it gets fucking cancelled, and that's what pisses me off. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So, all right then, fellas. We've marked it. It seems that we all pretty much enjoyed it. And I guess it's on to the next episode. and that'll be next week. And by then we'll be into August, fortunately. And I say fortunately because we are kind of running low on shows here on NerdTube. But with August coming up, we'll be getting a few more shows to review in the future, mainly Andor and She-Hulk, which I very much look forward to.
And Lower Decks.
Lower Decks as well. And of course,
That's-
you're still and you are obviously reviewing the Harlequin show as well.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Lower Decks
Right,
is
so-
what I'm excited for.
yes, me, yeah, likewise. So to everyone out there, sorry, Jericho, Cheetah, you got something to say?
No, I just was agreeing with you with me reviewing Harley Quinn.
Yeah, and the first you did an episode review yesterday.
Yep.
So if you're into that show, please check out our channel and watch his review. So to everyone else out there in YouTube land, thank you very much for joining us, Cousin Cheeto, Commodore Boone, Major Rage. It's always been a pleasure talking to you all. And to everyone else out there, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to NerdTube, the greatest YouTube channel you never heard of. And if we don't see you until next week, hopefully we'll see you between now and next week and after next week as well. Take care, bye-bye, and may the
Take care.
force be with you.
Peace.